Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you for joining today's news conference. Bienvenue à cette conférence de presse. We will start out today with remarks from the Chair of the Council of Federation, Ontario Premier Doug Ford, followed by remarks in French by the Premier of Quebec, François Legault. We will then take questions from media. It is my pleasure to now introduce the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford.
Well, thank you so much. I just want to start by thanking my fellow premiers. I always say I have a team of champions for such a positive and productive meeting over the last few days. I'm proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with my fellow premiers as Team Canada, and it's never been more important and never been more united since I've been Premier for the last over seven and a bit years. Over the last 3 days, Canada's premiers have worked hard to move forward on our shared priorities. We've met with the Indigenous leaders and frontline healthcare workers. We sat down with Prime Minister Carney, and that's the first time that's happened, to discuss ongoing negotiations with the U.S. and how we're working together to build a stronger, more competitive economy. We met as premiers and talked about the issues that matter most to the people we serve. We talked about standing up for workers in the face of President Trump's tariffs. We talked about cutting red tape, opening internal markets, and building a stronger, more self-reliant economy. We talked about the need for real bail reform that keeps criminals behind bars and keeps our communities safe. Prime Minister Carney has made it very clear in the comments to premiers and will be holding him accountable on bail reform. Premiers are also calling for a stronger provincial role in immigration for one simple reason: we know our labor markets best. At our First Ministers meetings, Prime Minister Carney agreed. Yesterday, at a meeting of federal and provincial immigration ministers, the federal immigration minister wasn't on the same page as her Prime Minister. We need the Prime Minister to be very, very clear with his minister. She needs to work with the provinces and territories to fix Canada's immigration system and make it more responsive to economic and market needs. In the meantime, Canada's premiers agreed to work together to use our authorities under Section 95 of the Constitution, including to issue our own work permits. I'll speak for Ontario. We will be issuing our own work permits. We aren't going to sit around and wait for the federal government. On healthcare, we're making it easier for nurses and doctors to move and work anywhere in Canada. We also talked about new ways to get life-saving medications into the hands of patients faster. But most importantly, we agreed on the need to remain united. And I've always said, united we stand, divided we fall. I know we're in great hands under the leadership of PEI Premier Rob Lance, who will soon take over as chair of the Council of Federation. With the United Team Canada approach, we're going to build and protect the true North, strong and free. Thank you very much, and may God bless the people of Canada.
Thank you, Premier. Je donne maintenant la parole au Premier ministre du Québec, M. François Legault.
Oui, bonjour tout le monde. La première chose que je veux dire, c'est merci. Merci à Doug Ford pour l'accueil. Merci aussi à Doug Ford pour sa présidence au cours de la dernière année. C'était une année mouvementée avec l'arrivée de Donald Trump numéro 2. Donc, on a eu des bonnes rencontres, puis on a eu un bon leadership de la part de Doug Ford. Depuis 3 jours, on a donc beaucoup parlé des impacts des tarifs ou de l'incertitude qui est amenée avec Donald Trump. On a eu l'occasion de rencontrer des communautés autochtones. On a eu l'occasion de rencontrer aussi le premier ministre du Canada. On a parlé d'aide aux travailleurs. On a parlé de l'importance de faire des investissements majeurs ensemble, les provinces, territoires et le gouvernement fédéral, pour aider à remplacer les emplois qui sont ou qui pourraient être perdus dans les échanges avec les États-Unis. Aujourd'hui, on a parlé du commerce interprovincial, évidemment avec cet accès qui est réduit au marché américain. Plus que jamais, tous les premiers ministres des provinces et des territoires, on veut augmenter les échanges commerciaux, enlever les barrières, profiter d'un marché de 41 millions de personnes. On a aussi parlé d'immigration. Bon, évidemment, il y a une situation qui est différente selon les provinces, mais je pense qu'il y avait un consensus pour dire que le gouvernement fédéral doit donner plus de pouvoir aux provinces dans le choix et la sélection du nombre d'immigrants. On le sait, au Québec s'ajoute le défi d'arrêter le déclin du français. Donc, oui, on a certains pouvoirs au Québec, mais nous aussi, on demande beaucoup plus de pouvoir pour, entre autres, réduire le nombre d'immigrants temporaires à Montréal et à Laval. On a parlé aujourd'hui de santé. On continue de demander une augmentation des transferts en santé du gouvernement fédéral. Le gouvernement fédéral ne fait pas sa part dans le financement des services de santé qui augmentent plus vite que toutes les autres dépenses à cause des impacts du vieillissement de la population, nouveaux médicaments, nouvelles technologies. Puis finalement, on a parlé de sécurité publique. On veut que le gouvernement fédéral soit prudent avant de remettre en liberté des délinquants sexuels ou des gens qui ont fait des actes, des crimes violents. C'est important pour assurer la population d'être un peu plus dur sur les conditions là, de libération. Puis je veux finalement, moi aussi, souhaiter bonne chance. Où est notre collègue Rob de ce côté-là? Donc, Rob Lance, le premier ministre de l'île du Prince-Édouard, qui va à son tour assumer pour la prochaine année la présidence de la conférence de la Fédération, là, donc du Conseil de la Fédération. Donc, bonne chance, Rob, et merci d'avoir accepté cette responsabilité.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier ministre. We will now move to media questions, starting with media who are present, followed by questions for those attending virtually. Please come to the microphone, state your name, outlet, and direct your question to one premier. Just a reminder, you will be limited to one question only. First question.
Hi there, Mackenzie Gray with Global News. Premier Smith, you and a number of premiers have said that you were going to speak with Premier Eby about the idea of getting an oil pipeline through BC. I'm wondering how those conversations went. And Mr. Eby, I'd hope you could respond to how you feel those went. And I want to follow up on something you said yesterday, too. You said you'd be supportive of a potential oil pipeline through Alberta if Ms. Smith was able to find a proponent for that. I just want to clarify, you'd be open to having a pipeline going through BC if there was a company that was willing to do that?
I'll start because I know that maybe the media isn't aware of how many areas of common ground that Premier Eby and I have. We have talked about ammonia export from the Port of Prince Rupert. I'm very supportive of the LNG expansions that are underway, as well as additional new LNG proposals. We have talked about an intertie so that we can have our electricity systems with greater integration. And, of course, expanding the capacity of the Trans Mountain pipeline by putting in additional measures, compression, and a few other things. They can actually expand the capacity as well as dredging the second narrows, and we've been supportive of that as well. So I would say that what we're looking forward to is a potential to restart what I think would have been a transformational project with Northern Gateway. It may not be the same route. It certainly needs to have a lot more consultation. The first time that it went through, it had 35 Indigenous partners who were equity owners in that, and that has to be the starting point for any new project. There has to be meaningful engagement and meaningful economic involvement of nations. So we're advancing that along with the Pathways project, because we think that having lower and lower emissions is also a way to demonstrate we've listened to some of the concerns about that have been raised by British Columbia, but I would say that our priority is to work on those first 4 projects that I mentioned, and then if we can get to a point where we have a proponent and are able to start on that, then we will.
Thanks very much for the question. Let me just begin. We're facing a bit of a situation in British Columbia right now. At our Red Chris mine in northwest British Columbia, there was an accident overnight. There are 3 miners that are currently trapped underground. They are, to the best of our knowledge, uninjured and in a refuge area. There was early communication with the company. The company is working with our world-leading mining rescue teams. BC miners are the best in the world. Our rescue teams are exceptional, and they will be working overtime to bring these workers home safely to their families. 2 of the workers are from British Columbia, 1 is from Ontario. I've spoken with Premier Ford, and we're keeping his government up to date as well. Obviously, it's very concerning for the families, for the workers in the sector, and all British Columbians and Canadians, and our thoughts are with the families and an appreciation with the incredibly brave rescue teams that are working right now. On your question, I agree strongly with Premier Smith that we have a huge amount of work to do that is going to create incredible economic opportunity for our 2 provinces. It is without doubt. We have our points of disagreement, but there are far more points of agreement in terms of how we're going to build our economies in our respective provinces. My focus as the BC Premier is on projects that we have where we're either imminent in terms of final investment decision, or final investment decision has been taken, and we need a strong federal partner to be able to support us in delivering those projects. North of $50 billion worth of projects in our province alone. And what I've encouraged the Prime Minister and Premier Smith to do about their project that they're excited about is to identify a proponent and to move forward with that if that is the direction that they'd like to go. I will acknowledge some frustration that we have so many projects that are either imminent shovel in the ground projects or with a small amount of support from the federal government would be ready to go. And a lot of the discussion is around this project that does not currently have a proponent. So let's get working on what we can do to build this country and build our economy. And when Premier Smith and the Prime Minister are in position with a proponent, we're absolutely willing to have those conversations with them.
Hi there, Kate McKenna with CBC. This is for Premier Ford. Premier Ford, I'm wondering if you could expand on some of what you were talking about regarding the conflict between the federal government and the provinces over immigration. What exactly is the issue, and what did the federal minister say?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a conflict. The conversation we had with the Prime Minister is very open, and under the Constitution that I have to thank Premier Smith for mentioning, we have authority in that area. No one understands their sectors and their labor force better than the premiers. And by no means, I want to emphasize this, it's no means the Prime Minister's, well, this is his issue right now, but this has been going on for decades. I'll give you an example. I have a tremendous amount of asylum seekers that are up in Etobicoke and in the hotels. They're healthy, they're willing to work, they're hard-working people, but they're waiting over 2 years. And they're just sucking off the system nonstop, not their fault. The fault falls under immigration, that it takes over 2 years to get a work permit. So as we're paying education, paying healthcare, paying their rent and hotels, which is exorbitant, they want to get out there and they want to be like every other Canadian. They want to find a job. They want to be able to first start off renting a condo or part of a house and then buying a house. But we're tired of waiting around. I can't wait around. It's costing our province an absolute fortune. Just last year, we were close to 100,000 asylum seekers, and I'm still waiting to get paid back from the federal government. That's one issue. But there's jobs available in Ontario, and we need to give them work permits and make sure that they're out there working and contributing back to society. I'm not waiting any longer. We're issuing work permits in Ontario for these folks to give back and contribute to society in Ontario.
Boris Proulx, Le Devoir. Ma question est pour le Premier ministre Legault. Ce n'est pas votre première réunion du Conseil de la Fédération. Au contraire, vous serez d'accord avec moi que d'habitude, le forum est l'occasion pour les premiers ministres de se rassembler pour faire front commun, une position commune envers le gouvernement fédéral, souvent avec un langage très fort. Ce qu'on a vu aujourd'hui, dans le communiqué, certaines généralités quand même de demandes. Il n'y a pas de pourcentage d'augmentation du transfert en santé, par exemple, qui est demandé par les provinces. Hier, c'était beaucoup des tapes dans le dos avec M. Carney, des félicitations, un souper agréable au chalet. Où est passé l'esprit du Conseil de la Fédération?
Je pense que d'abord, on a eu la chance d'avoir un 2 pour 1, c'est-à-dire qu'on a eu une réunion du Conseil de la Fédération, mais en plus une demi-journée avec le Premier ministre du Canada. Je pense que dans la situation actuelle, c'était nécessaire. D'abord, il y a des discussions qui ont lieu avec les États-Unis avec un objectif d'un accord potentiel le 1er août, c'est vendredi prochain. Donc, c'était normal qu'on veuille prendre du temps avec M. Carney pour voir où on en est rendu dans les négociations avec les États-Unis. Évidemment aussi, suite aux tarifs, à l'incertitude créée par M. Trump, on veut mettre en place des projets majeurs. Donc, on a eu l'occasion de parler de projets en défense, de projets dans nos ports, des projets dans les minéraux critiques. Donc, je pense que, évidemment, là, le travail commence de ce côté-là. Je suis venu effectivement souvent des rencontres où on a demandé de l'argent pour la santé. On continue d'en demander. Je dis pas qu'on obtient toujours ce qu'on veut rapidement, mais on veut au moins que l'indexation qui était promise à 5 se poursuive. Et, écoutez, tantôt, on parlait d'immigration. Vous êtes habitués d'entendre le Québec revendiquer tous les pouvoirs en immigration. Là, ce que j'ai entendu aujourd'hui, c'est une revendication pas mal unanime pour que toutes les provinces aient plus de pouvoir en immigration, que le fédéral, enfin, réduise les délais pour évaluer la situation des demandeurs d'asile. Ça n'a complètement pas de bon sens que ça prenne 3 ans pour évaluer un dossier, alors que dans d'autres pays, comme la France, ça prend 3 mois. Puis, entre-temps, pendant ces 3 années, ce sont les provinces qui payent pour les services, puis qui se retrouvent dans une situation où il y a une surcapacité. Actuellement, je le disais tantôt, là, il manque de logements, manque de places dans les écoles, manque d'enseignants, manque d'infirmières. Puis en plus, nous, on a la question du déclin du français. Donc, il est temps que le gouvernement fédéral réduise son délai de 3 ans à 3 mois. Donc, j'ai quand même des collègues qui revendiquent. En tout cas, j'ai senti ça.
Mark McAllister from City News. A question for Premier Ford, if possible. A month ago, you had said that you would be all over Prime Minister Carney when it came to bail reform. Yes. Just a few moments ago, you said that you would continue to hold him to account on the matter. Excuse me. There is indication that there is legislation coming forward in the fall. So where is the disconnect exactly at this point that there's a need to continue to hold him to account?
Well, I just want to make sure that they put that legislation forward. You know, I've heard this in the past, and I have a great deal of respect for Prime Minister Carney. He's a gentleman that when he says he's going to do something, I believe him. He's going to get it done. But there still has to be accountability. And it's not, you know, half-baked either, because last time it was kind of hokey-pokey. We want, you know, full-fledged bail reform. And I'd love to see mandatory sentencing. So when someone breaks into your home, puts a gun to your head, terrorizes your neighborhood, doesn't get out on bail after being out on bail for 5 times. And that's what we need. When you break a law, one country, one law, you're going to jail, and there'll be a deterrent for all the other criminals who want to terrorize our neighborhoods and keep them behind bars. So when they steal a car or put a gun to someone's head, well, you're going to jail for a long time if you use a weapon.
Rachel Aiello, CTV News. I'm going to direct this towards Premier Smith, but if anyone else wants to chime in, feel free. David Naughton, who you folks spoke with yesterday, has just told CTV News that he thinks it is highly unlikely that we'll reach a comprehensive deal by August the 1st. Was Prime Minister Mark Carney that explicit in the meeting yesterday? And how much patience are premiers going to have if this deal talks are going to go on and on and on?
I would say that, I mean, I'm watching Truth Social along with everyone else because things could change in 5 minutes. But what we're hearing from the Americans is it looks like they're putting off a full renegotiation of the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement until next year. I find that disappointing. I would have liked to have seen it accelerated. But I think everybody is focused in now on the sectoral problems that we have: autos, steel, aluminum, timber, copper, maybe pharmaceuticals, semiconductors. Those seem to be the targeted areas that the U.S. president is getting quite aggressive on. And so if we can come up with some kind of common arrangement on those issues, those sectoral agreements by August 1st, we'll look at that as a win. And if it takes a little bit longer to renegotiate Canada-U.S. Free Trade Agreement to make sure that we get it right, then I'm supportive of that.
Maybe I'll jump in there too, just to say that I think it's really important for Canada to get a good deal rather than rushing to take any deal, including one that might harm us in the long term. I think our kids and grandkids are going to look back at this time as an inflection point where we had the opportunity to stand up for our nation's independence and for our economic self-sufficiency. And I think it's really, really amazing to see how the premiers are united around building this country up. And the Prime Minister is right there on the same page. So I do want to take this moment to thank all the firefighters who've been working together. I thanked all the colleagues who've sent firefighters and water bombers to our province. And just to give the national media a bit of a perspective, in one community in the north, Flin Flon, this iconic mining town that we have in northern Manitoba, was surrounded by a fire 300,000 hectares in size. And I know what you're thinking, how big is a hectare? It's 100 meters by 100 meters, right? So this massive, massive blaze. And it was a collection of local fire departments from across our province that set up shop after the community was evacuated. Southern Manitoba communities like Morden, First Nations like Ebb and Flow. You had the city of Flin Flon Fire Department themselves, and by working together, flying overhead a week later, you could see that this massive blaze that incinerated the forest around them, they managed to hold it off and save this iconic town. That's the power of unity. That's the power of working together. And in this historic moment, we should look to our frontline heroes, whether that's firefighters, law enforcement, military, for that example of how to work together. And I think what you're seeing here is that same example of unity. We want to build the mega projects. We want to have internal trade within Canada. We want to put people to work and ensure that the next generation can have great careers too. And just like those firefighters standing shoulder to shoulder got it done in Flin Flon, I'm very confident the First Ministers, the Premiers working together will get it done for our country too. So thanks, Doug Ford, for being such a great host this year.
Bonjour, Valérie Gamache de Radio-Canada. Ma question est pour M. Legault et Mme Holt. Je vais vous parler de pipeline. Hier, M. Legault, vous avez ouvert la porte à un pipeline qui atterrirait là, du côté de Sept-Îles. Est-ce qu'il y a un projet? Est-ce que vous avez plus de détails sur ce que vous souhaiteriez voir? Et Mme Holt, est-ce que c'est compatible avec le souhait du Nouveau-Brunswick de développer aussi ses ports pour accueillir un pipeline?
Je peux peut-être commencer en disant, honnêtement, actuellement, il n'y a pas de projet concret financé sur la table, là. Donc, il faut d'abord qu'il y ait un projet complet financé sur la table. Ce que j'ai dit hier, c'est s'il il y a un projet qui est déposé, bien, moi, ce que je voudrais, c'est qu'il y ait le plus de retombées économiques possible pour le Québec. Il faut que ça soit bon pour les Québécois. Mais là, on est vraiment dans la spéculation. Il n'y a pas de projet ni pour le Nouveau-Brunswick, ni pour cette île, ni pour Bécomo. C'est un peu là je sais pas comment on peut appeler ça, là, mais des idées, mais pour l'instant, c'est pas concret, c'est pas financé.
Et pour nous autres, au Nouveau-Brunswick, on aimerait avoir accès au gaz naturel qui vient jusqu'à la ville de Québec et on aimerait voir que ça continue 100 km de plus pour passer la frontière de Nouveau-Brunswick, alors qu'on peut avoir accès à le gaz naturel pour les industries majeures de Nouveau-Brunswick qui ont besoin d'une source d'énergie abordable et fiable. Alors, on parle avec des compagnies privées, on parle avec M. Legault. J'apprécie énormément son point que le besoin des retombées économiques, des bénéfices pour le Québec, les communautés qui seraient entre la ville de Québec et les frontières. Je pense que Rivière-du-Loup en est une qui aimerait avoir eux autres aussi accès au gaz naturel. Alors, on travaille sur l'opportunité pour que ça peut être quelque chose de positif pour les Québécois et les Néo-Brunswickois, les deux.
Good afternoon, Premiers. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News. I'll direct my questions to Premiers Eby and Holt, if that's okay. Today, you're talking about pressing domestic issues, but over the course of the last few months, the central focus of your meetings has been the trade war with the U.S. Are other issues such as bail reform that you're talking about today, immigration, healthcare, taking a backseat because of the trade war?
Not at all. The challenge in these roles is always making sure you're looking after your people back at home. And when we go back home, people are anxious about their jobs because of the president's unilateral actions attacking our country. They are concerned about public safety and making sure that communities are safe for everybody. And they're worried about affordability, cost of home, rent, the cost of living. These are common issues, and I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention challenges related to healthcare. These are common issues that we face across the table in different ways. And this table, including the table with the Prime Minister, enables us to have these important conversations. We have to be able to do multiple things at once in this country. We have to ensure that we're fixing the plane while it's flying. And not only are we going to do it, but when we're done, it's going to be a project that all Canadians can be proud of. And the nice thing about this table is we're united on that. We're focused on it. And the Prime Minister in his meeting with us confirmed that he's on side too. So we're all pointed in the right direction. We're ready to go.
I think I'd just add to that to say, absolutely, with this incredible group of people and with the Prime Minister, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. And so, in fact, what's happened is that the pressing threats that Donald Trump has made to our economy have meant that instead of occupying all of our meetings and squeezing out conversations about bail reform and immigration, we've been meeting a lot more. We've spent a lot more time together in my entire tenure as Premier in just 8 months than I think my predecessor would have spent in 6 years. So we are spending a lot of time dedicated to that economic threat that keeps New Brunswickers up at night as they wonder whether their job in the forestry sector is going to get hit by an increased tariff to softwood lumber, and they wonder whether the contract they have with that American company is going to go away, and it's going to mean that they can't afford to continue in an environment that was already really expensive. I share Premier Eby's feelings that in New Brunswick, New Brunswickers are worried about access to health care, and they're worried about being able to pay the bills. But in order for our government to be able to deliver on our commitment to improving access to health care in New Brunswick and making sure everybody can be part of a family health team, to making life more affordable, whether that's housing or the cost of electricity or others, I need to make sure that we are growing our economy in order to cover the cost of those services. And that means working with these amazing people to drive projects of national interest to their quickest focused, to maximize our use of resources and trade corridors and access to things like natural gas that'll help fuel our economic growth in order to deliver on the commitments that we've made to make life more affordable for New Brunswickers and to help them have access to health care. So I think the economic conversation that we've been having because of the threat that Trump posed is critical and takes up a lot of space, but we also have been able to meet so frequently that we can continue to talk about ways that we can improve our healthcare system collectively and how we can push the federal government to have a more responsive immigration system in the hands of the provinces so that we can be bringing in the people we need to care for our seniors and to build our homes. And we can do all those things in part because we're meeting a lot more frequently, spending a lot more time together in order to get all of the work done.
Bonjour, Sébastien Desrosiers de Radio-Canada. Ma question est pour vous, Monsieur Legault. À votre arrivée ici, vous souhaitiez parler de défense. Ce que vous ont dit des entreprises, si j'ai bien compris, qui vous ont accompagné en France le mois dernier, c'est qu'ils souhaitaient qu'il y ait une espèce de quota de produits locaux dans les dépenses que vont faire le gouvernement fédéral en la matière dans les prochaines années. Est-ce que vous avez obtenu ce genre d'engagement-là de la part de M. Carney hier? Sinon, quel engagement avez-vous obtenu de sa part en matière de défense?
Ce que j'ai compris de M. Carney hier, c'est qu'il est d'accord avec une approche qui assurait une base industrielle au Canada. Donc, dans le passé, le gouvernement fédéral, l'armée canadienne, achetait souvent des équipements aux États-Unis, puis il s'assurait plus ou moins qu'il y ait des retombées pour le Canada. Je pense qu'il y a un consensus chez les premiers ministres des provinces, des territoires. Puis M. Carney nous a dit qu'il était d'accord avec une approche comme ça, c'est-à-dire que quand le gouvernement fédéral va donner des contrats, que ce soit directement avec des compagnies canadiennes, que ce soit des partenariats entre des compagnies américaines et canadiennes, que ce soit des partenariats entre des compagnies européennes et canadiennes, un élément très important dans le choix des fournisseurs, c'est qu'est-ce qu'on va pouvoir construire dans le secteur manufacturier au Canada. Donc, qu'on bâtisse pour l'avenir. Puis, je pense que dans le contexte de ce qui a été dit par Donald Trump dans les derniers mois, bien, c'est important que le Canada ait plus d'autonomie pour se défendre.
Mais c'est pas chiffré, par contre.
Ça reste un principe. Maintenant, c'est déjà beaucoup que M. Carney dise qu'il ne va pas fonctionner de la même façon que le gouvernement de M. Trudeau travaillait.
Merci.
I just want to jump in on the last comments there about making sure we spend military spending right across our country and tied into economic growth. I can't have a press conference without mentioning two companies, General Dynamics in London, light armored vehicles, great people down there, and Heddle Shipyards, which I know maybe they're partnering up with Davies or around the country, but they're a great company in Hamilton. We need to spread this work right across the country. Thank you.
If I could add as well on that, my apologies there. But what an incredible moment we're in terms of the solutions that we have. And I think we have to look from within. And I look to the critical mineral potential we have across this country, in particular to the north. And in the last few days, it's been great to have very meaningful conversations with my colleagues, but as well with the Prime Minister to talk about what we could do to expedite these big nation-building projects that really will start employing Canadians from coast to coast to coast, but that are dual use as well, so that our communities could truly benefit from those. So from that perspective, the discussions around Arctic security are at the forefront, and I really think that's a moment that we're in where we have to ensure that our communities are as healthy as they are as we assert our sovereignty as a country. But there's so much that we have in terms of the opportunity, and I think unlocking those through these dual-use infrastructure is going to be key, whether it's the Arctic Security Corridor, the Grays Bay Road and Port, or the Kivadlik Hydro Fiber Link, or the Deep Sea Port in Klikkertadjwal. There's some really nation-building moments that we're in, and I think Nunavut has so much to offer the country, and I can't thank my colleagues here enough for the incredible support we do get, that we need to invest from coast to coast to coast.
I'd like to just jump in and recognize this as one of the Premier of Nunavut's last meetings. He's been a huge champion of Northern sovereignty, Arctic sovereignty, Northern defense. His work is leading to the efforts out of Ottawa, and I just wanted to say thank you so much, PJ, for your work for the country. It's been amazing.
Hello, I'm Michael Serapia with CPAC. I direct my question to you, Premier Ford, but invite commentary from other premiers as well, because in the communique, there's the reference that premiers look forward to a comprehensive mutual recognition agreement covering all goods with implementation by December of this year. I'm wondering, where are you right now in those discussions? At what point will Canadians hear details about what you as premiers are agreeing to achieving internal free trade?
Well, I think we've come a long way, considering no other group of premiers, as long as I can ever remember, have been able to sign 11 MOUs. There's still a couple, and had a great conversation with the two premiers from Quebec and Newfoundland, and they're going to, I'm sure they're going to come on board as well. This is about making sure that we have free and fair trade across our country. And to be very frank, before this came to topic this year, 99% of Canadians believed that they could have free trade across the country. But this is going to boost our economy by over $200 billion. It will increase our GDP by anywhere from 5 to 6%. But you talk to the average person, they can't believe that we can ship a bottle of wine from Ontario out to BC or vice versa. And the case that you were saying, Tim, about the deal about someone shipping a case from Quebec into Nova Scotia got charged. Do you believe that? Or where was it? New Brunswick? New Brunswick, sorry. But do you believe that? Someone being charged, going to court because they buy a case of booze in Quebec and bring it to New Brunswick? So we're moving forward with this. We're getting rid of, at least Ontario is, getting rid of any amendments, and we're going full steam. Ontario's open for business, and we look forward to companies coming to Ontario and opening up shop here.
And if I can just take the opportunity to jump in, because he's referencing the Como case, I'm pleased to confirm that New Brunswick passed legislation this year to eliminate that personal exemption. So you can bring alcohol products from Quebec into New Brunswick now with no fines. And we've also passed a direct-to-consumer legislation so that New Brunswickers can enjoy the benefits of BC wines and Ontario wines, and look forward to continuing to expand the work like we're doing on labor mobility. And I'll just echo, actually, that I think we have made more progress than has been made in a long time on internal trade and removing exemptions, thankfully with a partner in the federal government who's also been aggressive on that, and I appreciate the desire to see the details and see the when. I think you'll find friends who are similarly impatient at this table of wanting to see it get to that simple, clean document that all Canadians and entrepreneurs can understand about the fact that they can put a good they've made in a truck in BC and take it all the way across the country without added burden, pause, or cost. That's what we're striving towards. We're making good progress, and we're optimistic that we'll have something that people will appreciate come the end of this year.
Okay, maybe what I'll add is that we have the same target, the same objective in Quebec, but we chose to go through a bill 112. So we table a bill saying that we remove all barriers between provinces, but it's not adopted. So for reason of democracy, we prefer to discuss that with opposition parties before settling that. But we are a majority government, so I think there are good chances that this fall the bill will be adopted in Quebec, so Quebec will be part of this free trade.
I would just add to all of that, in light of so many things going on internationally, nationally, even within our provinces, and I echo Premier Canu's praise for our municipal, often volunteer firefighters, our shared community of Creighton, Flin Flon. It was literally those folks that saved those communities as they fought for days, if not a few weeks on end, and continue to fight in many communities in both Saskatchewan, Manitoba, as well as some in Alberta and Ontario. And so to all of those in the front lines, from the bottom of our heart, we say thank you, and I say thank you to the provinces that have added to our resources in our province officially. But with all that is going on internationally in the way of international trade relationships being reset, tariff discussions, counter tariffs, periphery reactions from other countries such as China and other countries around the world, if there's any positive from any of this, and I'm not saying there's a lot, but if there is any positive from any of this, it is the fact that we in Canada very much are looking internally to control what we can control in terms of, and you hear Prime Minister Carney, and credit to him, talking about resetting the regulatory environment that we have in Canada so that we can build things quicker. And so we can, attract investment and provide jobs for Canadians in all of our respective 13 jurisdictions across our nation. You see us as provincial and territorial leaders, and in fairness, the federal government as well, taking significant steps in not just talking about doing better when it comes to lower tariff, lower barrier, less regulatory differences between our provinces, but actually taking significant action, some of the most significant action that I think has been taken in over a decade across Canada. And so step by step, whether it be MOUs, discussions about the various differences that we have, whether they're regulatory, labor mobility, whether they're procurement sensitivities that we have across Canada, and we're all open to having all of those, yes, sensitive discussions, but how can we do better in ensuring that people can live and work anywhere in Canada and they can purchase Canadian goods anywhere in Canada. So I think it's important to recognize the significant steps that are happening in reducing the exemptions in the CFTA, for example, the MOUs that are being signed, and the reciprocal legislation that has been introduced as well. And so credit to my colleagues for not only taking that conversation more serious than I have seen over the course of the last number of years, but actually acting on the areas where they can act. And a credit to Canadians for taking part in that conversation as well. There's an awful lot going on in the world today, and we need to very much participate, yes, as a nation of Canada in those global conversations, and they're difficult, and they're changing rapidly. But we also need to control what we can control, and I think in many ways you're seeing that happen, and we can be proud of the work our federal government is doing in fairness. And far be it for me to be a person up here that has said words like that over the last 10 years. But the work that our provincial leaders and our other leaders across the nation are doing, our Indigenous leaders that we met with earlier this week.
Hi there, Jack Howan from the Trillium. Big surprise, I have a question for Premier Ford. We published a story today on Tony Miele's consulting work for developers. Do you think it's appropriate for your party's chief fundraiser to raise political donations from developers he also privately consults for, who have major financial stakes in the decisions your government makes, and will he remain chair of the PC Ontario Fund?
Yeah, well, thanks for informing that. We all run, and we need political donations, and whatever his business is his business. But we have bigger things to deal with, to be very frank with you. You're asking these questions, and we have a crisis in Canada about Donald Trump attacking us. We're trying to protect our economy. We're doing internal trade, moving that forward. That's what people are concerned about. They're concerned about healthcare, the economy, keeping their jobs, paying their rent. But that's my comment there.
Bonjour, messieurs les premiers ministres. Ma question est pour Monsieur Legault. Je veux revenir sur les transferts en santé. Monsieur Legault, vous avez évoqué tout à l'heure un pourcentage, une augmentation ou en fait une indexation de 5% annuellement, de ce que je comprends là, de ce que sont les transferts en santé. Mais hier, lors de votre commentaire en conférence de presse, vous avez semblé mettre un peu de doute sur le fait, en fait, que de la capacité de payer du fédéral, lorsque vous avez évoqué le fait qu'il va y avoir des investissements importants en défense, et ensuite vous avez dit, on s'attend à ce qu'il y ait un déficit assez important au fédéral. Est-ce que pour vous, il faudrait que le fédéral s'endette encore davantage pour en donner plus aux provinces? Ou est-ce que vous émettez un doute sur le fait que ces discussions-là avec le fédéral puissent aboutir?
First, for the people who don't recognize him, it's Vladimir Guerrero Senior who's there. So, you know, his son and here in Toronto. Regarding the financial situation.
En français, ça vous dérange.
Ah, c'est vrai, je vais y aller en français, parfait. J'ai trop pris l'habitude depuis trois jours de parler en privé avec mes amis.
Monsieur Ford ne comprendra pas, c'est pour ça.
Oui. Écoutez, quand on regarde la situation financière, ça fait longtemps qu'on parle de ça. Je me souviens, entre autres, que Scott Moe a travaillé très fort sur l'augmentation des transferts en santé. Il faut faire la différence entre le court terme et le long terme. À long terme, le gouvernement fédéral va être toujours en bien meilleure position que les provinces et territoires à cause de la santé. Parce que le fédéral finance seulement 22% des dépenses en santé. Puis les dépenses en santé, c'est la seule dépense qui augmente de plus que les revenus à cause des impacts du vieillissement de la population et les impacts des nouvelles technologies et des médicaments. Donc, si on fait une projection, là, on avait même fait faire le travail par le Conference Board, on voit qu'à moyen terme, long terme, le gouvernement fédéral se retrouve en surplus, puis les provinces, si on ne change rien, vont toujours se retrouver en déficit. C'est sûr qu'à court terme, l'augmentation importante des dépenses en défense va mettre de la pression sur les finances du gouvernement fédéral. Mais je vais être clair, là, il faut quand même continuer de demander que le gouvernement fédéral fasse sa part en santé. Ça n'a pas de bon sens qu'il finance seulement 22% des dépenses en santé. Donc, il y a une question de croissance des dépenses, donc l'indexation à 5%, mais même le niveau de base 22, il doit être augmenté.
Mais avez-vous parlé de ça avec M. Carney hier? Est-ce que ça a été un sujet qui a été abordé et quelle a été sa réaction?
C'était aujourd'hui la discussion sur la santé, donc je pense pas que c'était dans l'ordre du jour hier. Scott may answer you in English, but no, healthcare was a subject for today. But Scott can give you a good compliment, Vladimir.
Thank you.
Samantha Pope.
When we discussed healthcare recently, you know, one thing of note that I think has impact on what Premier Legault has said is, you know, provincial healthcare budgets in a post-pandemic world have, you know, increased significantly. As, you know, population increases. I think, in fairness, the complexity of what's walking through the front door of our hospitals and our healthcare system are their people, and but it's certainly increased over the last decade or so. The whole conversation around mental health, addictions, recovery is changing before our very eyes. As the drugs that are in our community today are very different than the drugs that were in our nation a decade ago, and you know, we're seeing, you know, 8, 9, 10% increases across the board, or at least in Saskatchewan, and I don't think we're alone, in the investments that we're making in, you know, delivering health care and, you know, providing primary health care providers of all types and a timely surgery. And so the conversation, and really I think it's relevant because when you look at the Council of Federations formation just over 20 years ago, it really was formed to work alongside the federal government in adequately funding what was ever-increasing healthcare costs at that point in time, and that conversation continues. Maybe not yesterday at the FMM opportunity that we had, but it continues at this table as you know, the investments that provinces are making are far higher than the increases that we're seeing in the Canada Health Transfer, and the investment that the federal government has made has slipped to be far below where it was originally or where it was intended to be over time. However, in saying that, I would say again that there is an open ear and there is an open conversation with the Prime Minister. I'd say maybe more open than it's been in a decade on the priorities of the healthcare system being at least shared with the provinces as opposed to being imposed on by the Prime Minister's office. And so we'll get to that conversation with the Prime Minister. I know the Health Minister's table certainly is there. But again, in addition to my comments earlier about an ever-changing, rapidly changing environment, whether it be international, national, or provincial, or even at the community level, my goodness, we could all do with just a little bit less going on from time to time. Things are happening very quickly, and they continue in the healthcare field as well.
Et juste une autre chose sur cette question. La livraison d'un système de santé universel, c'est une de nos valeurs canadiennes. Alors, dans ce moment historique, je crois que c'est très important d'avoir un gouvernement fédéral qui avancera cette priorité en tant que le gouvernement national. Puis, le gouvernement fédéral, à ce niveau-là, il y a des autres outils, des outils monétaires, c'est-à-dire il pourrait imprimer plus d'argent. Au niveau provincial et territorial, nous avons seulement des outils fiscaux. Alors, ça nous met au défi dans la façon que M. Legault a expliqué. Alors, si nous avons un partenariat pour avancer ce projet d'avoir un système de santé que tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes seront fiers de, je pense que ça va vraiment réussir de capturer ce moment qu'on est en train de vivre dans notre pays. So I just wanted to say briefly, to me, having a universal healthcare system that is open to everybody is one of our fundamental Canadian values. Like, this is one of the things that separates us from the Americans. And so if we want to say that we're standing up to Donald Trump and we're never going to be the 51st state, let's make sure that our universal healthcare system is strong and supports Canadians in every region of the country. And I think we have a good partner in the Prime Minister right now to advance that project. And it doesn't hurt that they have other tools at the federal level. They have monetary tools where we only have fiscal tools, right? They can borrow, they can print money, they can do quantitative easing, all these other things. But I think if we work together, along with the mega projects, along with the internal trade, making healthcare universal for every Canadian, that's something that we should all be proud of. That's our heritage, that's our legacy, that's who we are.
I think you asked if the federal government should borrow money in order to give more on this front, and I have to say we've tried that, and we have an inflation crisis, an affordability crisis. I think that the new model that we're pursuing is let's make everybody wealthy. Let's make money before we spend it. And that, I think, is the focus of our conversation with the Prime Minister, is what are the big wealth-generating, nation-building projects that we can build so that we can get more wealth creators, more job creators, more taxpayers, so that we can pay for the things that we care about, healthcare being one, but we also have a 5% NATO commitment that has to be reached as well. And so we can't keep on digging a debt hole on that. We've got to do a reversal. And so I think that was the nature of the conversation with the Prime Minister. And so once we get to that point where some of these projects are ready to go and we're generating more revenue and we're in balanced budgets, then I think we can talk about what those priorities might be.
This will be the last reporter.
Samantha Pope, CTV News. This question is for Premier Ford. What do you make of Japan getting a trade deal with the U.S. with lower tariffs, and specifically, what does that mean for Canada's car industry?
Well, if we're gonna start doing comparators, let's put this into perspective. Japan buys approximately $79 billion worth of products off the U.S. We buy $349 billion of products off the U.S. We're the U.S.'s #1 customer. So we buy 400% more than what Japan, actually more than 400% more than what Japan pays. So maybe when Japan catches up to us, then we can sit down and talk those numbers. But those are facts. So again, I'll repeat this. We buy more products off the U.S. than Japan and Korea, China, Mexico, and the U.K. combined. I think we throw France in there too. But anyways, we're an economic powerhouse, folks. We don't have to take a backseat to anyone, and we sure the heck don't have to take a backseat to Donald Trump. We need to start diversifying our trade, sending our goods all around the world. We have to make sure that we increase our energy, no matter if it's the oil or electricity. We're leading the G7 on the small modular reactors. We're no shrinking violet. We're an economic powerhouse in Canada, and we'll make sure that we send our products around the world and be less reliant on the Americans. And it's nothing against the Americans. I got a problem with one person, and that's Donald Trump down there.
That's all the time we have today.
I'd like to just jump in, if I could. If we're through with questions, just before we wrap up, just some comments as the incoming chair of COF. I want to thank Doug Ford not only for his leadership over the past year as chair of COF, but also as our host here. And thank you to the province of Ontario, the town of Huntsville, the Deerhurst Resort here, all of the OPP officers and RCMP officers who have been here with us throughout these days to keep this orderly and safe. Thank you very much. So I'm really looking forward to welcoming all of you to Prince Edward Island next year. I know I've got very big shoes to fill as the chair of COF. And it's not lost on me that I'm one of the newer premiers around the table here, and that we're passing the baton from the province with the largest population, the largest GDP, to the one with the smallest of both of those. But Prince Edward Island has a history of playing an outsized role in the Federation, and we're looking forward to doing that again, and I'm very privileged to have that position. So Doug has told me to start planning now, because this is it's a big event to plan and host, but we're also very good at hosting major events in Prince Edward Island. And I just want to say there was some conversation about the history of COF around the table today and how this started, primarily as a venue to lobby for more health transfers, and over the years it became not necessarily a very cooperative relationship, with premiers refusing to meet with us, or just describing it as a venue where we would ask for more money and they'd say no. Obviously that has evolved, and there was a lot of discussion about this, and you've heard it from other people here today, that it's become obviously a very cooperative venue, and in large part to the circumstances we find ourselves in, the problem of Donald Trump, but also because of the willingness of Mark Carney to engage with us and make us full partners at the table to resolve the issues that we're facing and to move this country forward. And he recognizes us as equal partners to get that job done. So all of us have, as you've all heard, gone out of our way to recognize that, so we appreciate that. And we hope to carry forward that sense of unity and cooperation, because we all know we can make an impact with that attitude going forward. And I look forward to nurturing that sense of collaboration as chair over the next year. So thank you very much for being here, and look forward to seeing you in Prince Edward Island.
Thank you, Premier. This concludes today's press conference.
Thanks, everyone.